St. Luke's account of the gospel can be broken up into 6 sections: the preface, the birth of Jesus and John, the preparation of Jesus for ministry, Jesus' rejection in Nazareth, his journey to Jerusalem, and finally his teaching in Jerusalem, passion, death, and resurrection. Today, we are in the 5th section of Luke's account, which is the journey to Jerusalem. Further, we are in the longest continuous teaching section of the gospel, which begins in chapter 11 and wraps up in chapter 17. So if you feel a little like the gospel reading today came out of nowhere, you're right. The reading today is the end of one of the many long teaching discourses of Jesus in this section of Luke's account. Jesus was teaching in Pera, an area on the east side of the Jordan River in modern-day Jordan, which Herod Antipas controlled. The warning he received from the Pharisees would have scared many people. To be warned that the ruler of a region is out to kill me would send a shiver down my spine. Yet Jesus reacted to this warning with indignance. He almost dared Herod to do something about his presence, as he told the Pharisees exactly what he would be doing for the next 3 days. Then Jesus turned his gaze towards Jerusalem and said to the Pharisees that he wanted to gather the people of Jerusalem under his wings to protect and nurture them, but they continually rejected his love and care. The Pharisees would have either been very confused by this statement, wondering how many times has Jesus preached in Jerusalem, or they would have connected that Jesus is claiming his divinity, his oneness with Yahweh, and it would have enraged them. Given that the next chapter begins with Jesus having a meal with the Pharisees and them watching him very closely, I imagine they walked away from this interaction with Jesus very confused and very suspicious of his agenda. Going back to the statement Jesus made about Jerusalem and his countless efforts to bring the people of Jerusalem under his wings of protection, I think that imagery is really appropriate for this Lenten season. I was having difficulty coming up with a sermon this week, and the Thursday Eucharist at 12:15 I was preaching at, and when I preach at those services, I don't write notes, I just preach off the cuff. The readings that Thursday made me think of how Lent enables each of us, if we take it seriously, to create a little bit of adversity in our lives. Think about it this way. How often do we remember to reach out to God when things are going really well? Hopefully, we take the words of our Eucharistic prayers seriously when we say that it's our bounden duty and service to at all times and in all places give thanks to God, or in the Rite 2 version that we'll say in a little bit, it is right and a good and joyful thing, always and everywhere, to give thanks. But if you all are anything like me, you sometimes, or maybe a little more than sometimes, forget to honor and to recognize God when life is all peaches and cream. Yet, when the going gets tough, and we realize that we're in a bind that we cannot control, we get on our knees and we reach out to God. Whether it's a family issue, a health scare, a financial disaster, or, as we've experienced so many times, a natural disaster, once we realize that we're not in control, that we can't do it on our own, we turn to God. If we create a Lenten discipline that causes us a little bit of adversity, it will remind us each day that we must rely on God daily. and that we also must remember to give thanks to God daily. There's a saying that I'm sure you all know. It takes 21 days to create a habit. It takes 21 days to create a habit. Well, Lent is just about double that amount of time. So we can use this season to develop a habit of reaching out to God daily. A habit of prayer for friends, our church, our community, and our family. A habit of giving thanks to God. A habit of seeking God's will in all the circumstances we find ourselves in each day. The fact is, the Bible is filled with stories of people who reached out to God at specific times in their lives and were blessed because of it. St. John's is filled with people who have reached out to God at specific times in their lives and have been blessed by God because of it. If you've not started a Lenten discipline yet, shame on you. No, I'm just kidding. If you've not started a Lenten discipline yet, or if you're having a hard time keeping your discipline, use this season to reach out to God. Reach out for love and for guidance. Ask God to help you recognize His presence in your life. Pray to God to see His image in the people you encounter every day, whether you're family, friends, or coworkers. Take this season to start a new habit that will last and become a rule of life instead of a seasonal habit. Imagine having a rule of life that empowers you to have a stronger, more reliant relationship with God. If we had those kinds of relationships with God, I bet we would have similar confidence as Jesus did when he was confronted with the fact that Herod was out to get him. We would have the confidence to ignore the negative trends in society and instead represent the positivity that is the gospel of Jesus Christ, the good news. That positivity, that good news, transcends culture, time, and social trends and has kept the church alive and thriving for 2,000 years. God loves you. Take some time this Lenten season to remind yourself of that. To remind yourself how precious you are in God's eyes. And then help someone else to feel that too.